Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Hayemi Meseches NIDAH Daf Nun Vav. We begin on Nun Hey Amud Beis, 5 lines from the bottom. Dimas Eino Dichsiv. This links back to that Brisa, which listed a number of body fluids, discharges coming from a Zav who is Tamei, and these discharges as well are considered Tamei, but on varying levels depending on their qualifying features, meaning some liquids are considered Ma'ayan, a wellspring in the context of our discussion, Ma'ayan Hazav, because they fit the bill of a Ma'ayan, they have those elements or required elements as we're going to see later in the Gemara. It accumulates and spurts out and cannot be retracted, so that qualifies as a Ma'ayan. That covers the actual Ziva emission material, Meraglayim, etc. And they're Matame at a very high level. They're considered Av HaTumah, a source of Tumah, Matame, a person as Begadim, etc. Below that we have other liquids coming from a Zav, which don't necessarily, which don't qualify as Ma'ayan, but nevertheless are considered qualifying liquids. They're mashkin. They're labeled as mashkin. Not just, something waste and valueless, something which has status. Considered a mashkin. And although it's not a mayan to achieve that high status of tumah, nevertheless it is a mashkin. It's considered a liquid with respect to a very basic tumah, tumah's mashkin. So if there is a revius quantity of that amount, of that water, of that liquid, it is tummy as well. What belongs in that category? Dimas Eina, a tear out of his eye. What do we find? And that is considered a mashke. Tichsiv, atashkemli, b'dmoyeslish. The pasuk speaks about hardships being akin to being served, tears. So we see that association between dmois and batashkemli, given to drink, hashka, mashke. So it has the status of a liquid. What about v'damaga fasai? Blood dripping from a scratch, from a wound. Tichsiv, v'dam chalol nishtel. Drink the blood of the murdered ones, of the killed ones. And even though here we're speaking about just a wound, but a wound is like a partial killing. Mali katle kule. What difference whether he fully killed him and generated that blood? Mali katle palde, or partially killed. So half is like whole, meaning it also is considered dam chalalam. In which case, yishte is a term related to it. Well, drinking relates to mashke. Hence, it has that status. What about a woman's milk? She opened up and she gave him milk to drink. We don't differentiate between different types of milk. It's a drinkable material, has that legal standing. Now let's move over to the mayonis, those discharges which have severe tumah. Ziva, miraglayim. How do we know? Maybe miraglayim minelam. How do we know that it has the status of a mayan and it's metama on the same level as the zav himself? The sanya zoivoy tami. So the pasuk speaks about the ziva itself, the emission itself being tami, and then it says v'zois. V'zois, extending it to something else as well. L'rabbis to include memi raglav l'tum. Asks the Gemara, why do we need a special pasuk? Isn't it logical? Look, based on al kal v'chomer. Now we've already established that the roik, the saliva, the spit of a zav is certainly an avatum, it's certainly a mayim, despite coming from a makom tahara, a location which is tar, not an location which generates tumah matter in his mouth. Still, the roik is considered tamei, since it came from a zav who was tamei, maybe raglav the waste waters. Haboin, we turn to the next time. Mimakim tamei, which is sourced in the same area as the ziva itself, which is tamei. Wouldn't you agree? Eino din shiu tmein that the miraglayim should automatically be tamei even without a pasuk. Well, it's not so simple. Who's to say that everything that comes from that area is tamei? Look, dam, for instance, blood, which comes forth from that area. Hayotze, which comes from piyam, the opening of the aver. That will disprove this notion, despite the fact that it's coming from a tummy location, a place which generates the ziva. Still, this dam is certainly Vitar, as we're going to see coming up in the Gemara soon. Fata, likewise, you. Al tisma. Do not wonder, al zeh, the mimir aglayim, that without a pasuk indicating that it's tamei, I wouldn't guess so on my own. Even though it's coming from a makim tumah, yeah, of course it should be Torah. Tamalayimar, hence the pasuk, zoi v'yitamei v'zois, which is l'rabis to cover even the mimir aglav l'tumah. Speaking of which, how do we know that the dam hayotzim min amma is Torah? Minol the Torah. The signing of a brisa to that effect. Yochel yeh dam, perhaps the blood coming from that area. Hayotzim, a pip coming from the zav's mouth, or the opening of the am pia amma, where the ziva comes from. Perhaps the dam is tamei as well. Tamalaymar zoi vay tamei. Who? It's the extra word. Who is has a limiting effect. Who tamei? Only it. The zav is tamei. Vein dam hayotzim epivim pia amma tamei latar. Rather than the blood, which is certainly tar. Says the Gemara. So now you have one pasuk which expands and covers more. The pasuk of Vizois. Then we have a pasuk, who, which has a limiting effect. So you've chosen to exclude the dam and to include the mimir aglaim. How do you know which way to go? Perhaps the other way around. Why don't we switch it? I'll tell you why. Because it's an established fact. The Torah speaks of the reik of his being tummy. There's no question about that. So we assume that it's more likely that in order to be tummy, you have to have similar features. You have to be comparable to the reik. Do with the reik. It makes sense to include only something which is more similar to that saliva. What characterizes reik? Ma reik shemis agal v'yotze. Naturally, it accumulates and then it spurts out. It doesn't just drip, drip, drip. So when reik gets emitted, it's because there's an accumulation. It gathers and then it forces itself out. That qualifies as a mayan. That's an avatuma. Avkoil shemis agal v'yotze. Likewise, only something else which has those, which shares those features, will be tamei as an avatuma. And that covers meir aglayim, shechva zera, as opposed to the blood just dripping, drip, drip, drip. It doesn't accumulate and then spurt out. I presume that's exempted. Ask the Gemara, what about the woman's milk, which seems to share this feature? It accumulates and then it comes out. And we just learned in the brisa yesterday, that doesn't qualify for the higher form of tumah. It's not a mayan hazav. Chalav shebeisha is only metame like a regular liquid, tumas mashkin. Tumas mashkin, yeah, in. Avoid tumah chamur, not the more severe tumah. But it shares the same features, why not? The answer is we have a third condition as well. It has to be mesagal, yes, v'yaitze, yes, but there's a third point. Ela amar b'yechana, mishum, he calls him Shimon Echai. It has to be comparable, dumi the reik. And what defines reik? Ma reik mesagal v'yaitze, v'choyze v'nivla. It accumulates, and that's how it comes out. But you could also reabsorb it into your guf. So you have an abundance of saliva in your mouth, you can just swallow it, reabsorb it. Likewise, only something which shares these definitions. Accumulates, spurts out. But it could be reabsorbed. For instance, miraglayim can go back into the system. Yotzadam as opposed to blood, which has no such option. First of all, she'enim mesagal v'yaitze doesn't have that accumulative nature. And Yotza Chalav Shebeisha, and likewise, the Chalav of a woman, although it has the first point, the first 2 points, Shabisha Mesagal V'Yotzei, but in a Chayz of Living it doesn't get reabsorbed into the guf. Hence, it doesn't qualify as a mayon. At most, it will be considered a mashka. It's a valid liquid which has tumas mashkin, but no more than that. Ask the Gemara. But we're exempting things which are not similar to reik. Fine. But there's another liquid which certainly has established tumah. The ziva itself, at a pasuk yesterday, the mission itself. So why don't we learn from there and say, look, just like ziva is not misagal v'yotze, doesn't have that accumulative, nature. So likewise, the dam of the doesn't either have it and should be tummy. Ma zoyve she'ein misagal v'yotze, and still v'tamei, afkoil, perhaps other matters as well, other liquids. will be tummy despite lacking these features. You can't learn from Ziva. Ziva is in his own class. You can't compare anything to Ziva. Ziva has that strictness because it is the troublemaker. It generates the tumah to his host. So perhaps that's why he doesn't require all the additional features to make him tummy. He's an essence of tumah, as opposed to other matters, other materials, which don't have this unique feature. So they're meant to be compared to the Reik, right? So the Reik, which is Mis'agel v'Yotzei, and Chayzav v'Nivla, is considered a Mayan. Likewise, anything that fits that bill. Meraglayim fit the bill, Shech Vazera fit the bill, but not Dam, not the Chalav Shebe'isha, which don't have all these conditions. So back to the Mishnah, we learned that a sheretz, a lizard, or something which is metame, is only metame when it's in its moist state, its fresh state, but not when it's dried up. Amar Shlakish, here comes an exception to the rule. Sheretz sheyavish, let's say the sheretz is fully dried up, but its form is still intact, its skeleton is still intact. Vishildai, its skeleton, its form is fully intact, kayam is tummy, despite the fact that it's dried up, because its essence is still there. But the Mishnah seems to say that freshness is a requirement. Mitamin lachan, but they're not. Hey, mitamin evasion. Amar b'zera. All depends. Part or full. Like Asha habakulan. We spoke about the full sheretz, fully intact, is tummy despite its dryness. Well, the Mishnah spoke about it part. There it has to be fresh to be mitami. The Sani Bavli. This distinction discussed in the following brayso. Amar Bitzchak bar Bisna. Amar Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. So regarding touching the sheretz, the pasuk says, whoever touches bahem. Bahem sounds like the full thing. Yochel b'kulim, perhaps only if you touch the full sheretz does he become tamid hamalema. Comes the next, because the pasuk says mayhem, from them, part of them. Well, mayhem, if only that pasuk yochel b'miktasim, perhaps even part tamalema. Comes the other pasuk bahem. So which way, complete or part? Okay, it said. How do you work this out? Depends what state he's in. When the pasuk says even part of the sheretz is metami, kan belach, when it's moist and fresh, so it still conveys tumah, even though it's just part of a sheretz, as long as it has a shear, right, a dasha, whatever. Kan be yovish. When the pasuk speaks about the full and complete sheretz being a requirement, that's when it's dried up, as per Rish Lakish's distinction, where when it's complete and intact, it's tumah even when it's dry. Amar Rava. I'll give you an example for a dried up creature, which is matami. Hani zavuki, these turtles, or whatever, the mechayza from mechayza, which are all dead and dry. Kishuldan came as tamei, and since they're fully intact, they're matami. V'amar Rish Lakish, another variation of this halacha. Sheretz shenisra, even the sheretz is incinerated, burnt up, but it's still retaining its shape, it's still intact. V'shulda kayemes, it is tamei. Maybe becomes a kasha from a Mishnah, which seems to say that a burnt sheretz loses its tumah. Nimtza sheretz soraf al gabi hazes. We discovered a burnt sheretz, which is typically metame, but it's burnt. It's sitting on the olives. Did it land fresh and then get burnt, or did it land burnt? Likewise, you have a material which is worn out, which is no longer functional. When did it happen? So, did it land worn out, or did it land functional and it was matami? The bed was matami, the zaysim, and then it got worn out. Torah, we say it's Torah. Why? We focus on, its current state, and we assume this is the way it was to begin with. Shekol HaTumah is regarding all matters of tumah. These materials are determined based on when they're discovered, based on the current state. In any case, clearly a burnt sheretz disables its tumah. In contrast to Rish Lakish, who says a sheretz can be matami even when it's burnt. Amar B'zera, the same answer as before. It depends if it's complete or partial. Like kasha b'kulun hab'miktsas. Rish Lakish spoke about a fully intact sheretz. It's matami even in its burnt state. Hab'miktsas. The Mishnah spoke about a partial sheretz, which is only matami when it's fresh. The sanya, as we find in the brayso, which we mentioned earlier, so the pasuk speaks about Negea Behem, touching a full sheretz, Yachal B'kum, perhaps you have to touch the full thing, Tamalema Behem, even part. If only mehem, perhaps part, full. Okay, so how do you work this out? Depends what state he's in. Kan, b'sarif, if it's burnt, then it's only metame when it's fully intact. Kan, b'shein, b'sarif, if it's not burnt, if it's fresh. Even part is metam lachem. So we speak about all kinds of tumah materials which have to be lach in order to convey tumah. We have the zoyib, we have the spit, we have the saliva, we have the sheretz, and the vela, shechvazer. All these are metamen only when they're lachem. So we'll go through the sources one by one. How do we know that lach is a requirement for these items to convey tumah? Zoiv, t'chsiv, ror b'sarai. Ror means like it's dripping, like flowing like saliva. So the ziva has to have that presentation. Ki chay v'niyav, all types of phlegms, and t'chsiv v'chiyar kazoiv, hazov, the zav spat. So that's the pasuk which includes all the other phlegms. Hence, it has the same status as roik. Kein roik. So roik is naturally wet. So the other similar phlegms have to have that same presentation. They have to be similar to the roik, only metame when they're fresh and they're wet. Sheretz as well. B'moisam. The pasuk refers to the moment of b'moisam when they died. Meaning, the pasuk speaks about their death. Kein misa. It has to maintain a similar presentation to the moment of death, meaning it's fresh and moist. Shechva zera, only when it's lach, is going to be metame because harui lazriya. Because by definition, shechva zera is something which is a seed that can impregnate, that can generate further. And that's limited to when it's lach. Once it's dried, it loses that property. What about nevela, the chsiv? V'chiyamus, so the animal dies and you touch it, become tamei. We learn kein misa, akin to the moment of death, meaning it's lach as opposed to dried up, where it loses its tumah. But if it can be, soaked and refreshed and re-moisturized, that's indicative of some element of moisture present, in which case it retains its value, retains its tumah. The Mishnah speaks about soaking it in parshanut, lukewarm water, for 24 hours. Now let's say you start off in lukewarm and then the water cools off. Unless you refresh and exchange the water, it's going to cool off. And it didn't have a re-moisturizing effect. Is that indicative of its lack of moisture? Or perhaps it's not a fair litmus test unless it's continuously parsha from the beginning to the end of the 24 hours. Does it need to be parsha from beginning to end of the 24 hours? Perhaps it's enough that it starts in parsha, even though later on it cools off. Tashmai comes a raya. That it's a machlokes. The sanya kamish riyas. And how long is it meant to be soaked? The parsha in lukewarm. Yud ben kusa aimer meis leis 24 hours. Tchilasay apishein soifay. As long as it starts parsha, even though ultimately it cools off. Rabban Shmuel leil aimer. It has to be continuously parsha throughout the 24 hours to provide a proper litmus test. He says, typically, lach is a requirement. The Mishnah cited some exceptions. NIDAH is metame even if it's dry, and likewise psar hameis. Rabbi takes issue with that. He says psar hameis, if it's dry, it's tar. Omar Shmuel, you should know it's only tar on one level. Tar mulatame kazais. If you have a kazais of this flesh which is dried up, it's not metame. Aval metame tumas raka, but there's something called tumas raka, decomposure material. The quantity of a tarbad of a large spoon, that's metame by its own right, irrespective of whether it's considered psar hameis. It has its own status, its own category of tumas. Likewise, over here, the dried basar, even though it doesn't qualify according to Rabbi as psar hameis, it will not be metame on that account. But there's enough there to qualify for tumas reka if it has that. I mean, how can we find the same in a brayso? Although it can't count as psar hameis, but it could count. The flesh cannot be regenerated. Fine. Tar miltame b'kazayis. If it's only kazayis, it's not metame. But if you have enough to fill this spoon, avatame tumas rakev qualifies for that. Okay. So conclusion. In general, matters of tumah material need to be lach. We have all these psukim regarding ziva, shechva zera, roik. All these things have to be in their fresh state to retain their tumah. Now, if they're slightly dried, they can be re-moisturized by soaking 24 hours in parshanut, then they do retain their tumah. We have some exceptions, on the second which Rabbi takes issue. What about the mayonas of a zav, which are considered av hatumah? What qualifies as a mayon hazav? It needs to have three conditions. Mis'agal v'yaitze, accumulates and then comes out. And then you have the condition that it's chayzer v'nivla, can be reabsorbed into the guf, and that excludes the chalav of the isha, which can't be reabsorbed. It excludes the dam, which is not mis'agal v'yaitze. So although they're considered tamei, tumas mashkin, but not the severe tumah of mayonas shalzav. Continues the Mishnah. So you're walking through the street and you brush by the wall there, and then you discover a sheretz. The question is, was he there when I brushed by or not? It was discovered today. I brushed by yesterday. How long was he here? Ha-sheretz shenimtzu b'mavi. Sheretz discovered in a mavi. Time of arrival unknown. Mitamim mafreya. So you find him on Tuesday. He's mitamim anything that happened here. All taharas that were in close proximity, that back Tuesday, Monday, Sunday, until a person can get up and vouch and say, look, I checked this area, Matzah Shabbos, and it was free and clean of tumah. Okay. So that saves anything beyond Matzah Shabbos. And Shiyamar, until a person can vouch. Badakti. Somebody says, I personally inspected the area of Lahei Sheretz and there's no Sheretz. So that's one deadline. Or back until it was last swept. Swept Erev Shabbos, at most. At the earliest, he came after that. But beyond that is Torah. And the same idea with a kesem, a stain on a woman's garment. She's not sure when it arrived. All the materials that she had associated with, going back until either she can vouch for inspection or until it was laundered. And person can say, I checked it, there was nothing there, or going back to when it was laundered last. One last point, so the sheretz or the kesem, which are matame back until, applies whether the material is dry or moist. Because even if it appears fresh, it could have really been old and it was refreshed by some water that reached it, right? Shimon Omer, no, he said, if it's a dry sheretz, it could have been here for a while, fine. But if it's fresh, in this case, it's only matame going back until as far back as you can go, and it would still make sense that it would be fresh and moist. But past that point, you can't apply tumah. Now comes a question. So the Mishnah spoke about the sheretz being matame l'mafreya, going back in time until either you inspected the area or it was swept. The question is like this: what's the benefit of sweeping? Is it because the sweeper was trained to look out, and he certainly was baidik as he was sweeping? So it's really another version of bedika, or shall we say the actual sweeping presumably would have swept up the sheretz. Why only tell me until the moment that it was swept and not beyond? Because we assume that the sweeper checked it. Chaskasi badik is presumed to have been checked. Or should we assume that the sweeping itself would have swept it up, even in the absence of a conscious awareness on account of the sweeper? Now, either way, it's okay. What's the point of this? The answer is, let's say the sweeper says, you know what, I was distracted. I swept, but I wasn't paying attention. You're relying on me, I wasn't paying attention. So it depends, if we need his awareness. If it's because there was a conscious awareness and an inspection alongside the sweeping, in this case he's vouching, he's conceding that he didn't check. Chaskasim miskabed, but if it's the actual sweeping, hamiskabed, well, it was swept. Return to Talmud base. Inami, another situation which will depend on these two variations, the ishtakach beguma. Let's say you discovered the lizard in a crevice, which wouldn't have been automatically swept up if not for conscious awareness. If the presumption is that the sweeper checked as well he would have checked the crevices as well. That's his job. He's looking out for these things, right? In Yerushalayim, there's to sweep and look out for the tumah to make sure it's free and clear, to enable the people to, man the badak, bugumanami badak. He's checking the crevices too. Yamis chaskasim miskabed, or if the presumption is that it would have been swept away, something in the crevice isn't automatically swept away. Same exact discussion can be applied to a stain. So you discover a stain, the tumah extends back until either the moment of inspection or the moment of laundering. What's unique about laundering? Is it because the laundering itself is presumed to have would have cleaned up the kesem, or is it because there was some conscious awareness as you were laundering it? You're going back to the moment of washing. Is it because the person cleaning it would have checked, or the presumption is it would have been the stain would have been removed? What's the difference whether it's this or that? The Amar Kibis Badak, the laundroman says, look, I threw it into the washing machine, I wasn't paying attention. So now it depends. If you're relying on his inspection, well, he's conceding that there was none. But if the presumption is that the machine would have washed it, well, in this case, it would have been washed as well. Or another case would be the shtaka b'sitra, similar to the crevice before. Here he found the stain in the seam and the bend in the fold of the beged. So if the laundering comes along with an inspection, he would have certainly inspected all the folds. And therefore it's presumed to have come after that point. But if it's just a matter of the machine cleaning it up, not necessarily does it reach the crevices and the folds. So which way? Toshma. Listen to this brayso, the Sanya. Why is it the Chacham established that a sheretz discovered in a mavi would be going back in time until the inspection, until a person can get up and testify, check this area, and there's no sheretz, or until the sweeper came by, why? What's the sweeping going to do? The answer is it's presumed that Bnei Yisrael have its practice, that they're paying attention, they're aware, they're cognizant, and when they run the machine, they check alongside. As they're doing the kibudein, and you're right, if they concede, he says, look, I was distracted with my phone, I wasn't paying it, then it discounts the whole sweep, because it only works based on the fact that there was an inspection. So it's pretty clear that it's not merely the sweep, it's the eye. He's looking out for it. Likewise by the stain on the beged. Why is it so that the Chachamim established kesem in the garment, and the going back until inspection or until laundering? What's unique about kibbutz? Because there's awareness. Somebody's paying attention. It's assumed that the Jewish women, they check their begadim as they're washing them to look out for a stain, and therefore if she concedes that she wasn't paying attention, so this is the answer to our question. When the sheretz is metame, only until the sweep, likewise the stain until the washing, that's because at the time of sweeping and washing, he was looking out. And therefore, if he concedes that he wasn't looking out, it discounts the whole effect of the wash or the sweep. Rav says, look, I have an idea. It was washed without, too much attention paid. Fine. Listen to this. You want to determine when the stain arrived. So you discovered it on Tuesday. You did your kibbutz on Monday. You'd like to know, did the stain arrive on Sunday or on Tuesday? Before the washing or after the washing? You know what? Rewash it and see what happens. Tachsar, Tchapsenu. If the wash today on Tuesday fades it, what does that tell you about the nature of this, of the timing, when this thing arrived? Apparently, it arrived after Monday's wash. Otherwise, it would have been faded as well. Just like this wash faded it, why didn't Monday's wash faded it? Apparently, he came after that wash. So anything before that wash is free and clear. If the color got faded, now you know, confirm, shlach ha-kibus. They arrive after Monday's laundering. But otherwise, if it stays stubborn, now obstinate, now you see that the washing doesn't necessarily loosen up the stain. It could very well have been here prior to Monday's wash. Rabbi Omer, he says, look, it's very simple to me. If you look closely, take a close look at that stain, you can tell the difference. You can tell whether it went through the ringer. Rabbi Omer, you can't compare a stain post-laundry to a stain before the washing machine. Different thickness. Rashi says magdir means it's absorbed in the material. But once it goes through the machine, it's sort of different ways to understand. It's like more of a stiffens, or it gets more like sort of more on the surface. Either way, you see clear difference. And that should allow you to determine the timing. In any case, we resolved our shayla. The question was whether the laundering itself does the trick, or you have to have that awareness with it. Clearly from this brisa, it's not the laundering itself, only the b'dika alongside the laundering. But in absence of a b'dika, then it's confusion. Although according to some shittas there's some solution, but it's not an automatic. Okay. Umetame ben lach. Amar b'lasa, leishana l'sheretz. The Mishnah concludes that this retroactive tumah is whether the item is in its dry state, in which case it's logical to assume that it was here for a while, even when it's in its wet state. Reb Shimon says no. If it's lach, how far back could it have died? How far back could it have been here? And that determines the time. Amar b'lazar, you should know l'shana l'sheretz. Reb Shimon's point that freshness indicates a recent arrival, that's only by a sheretz. Aval kesem, but if it's a stain, even if it looks wet, it's mitame going back in time. Far back in time. Why? I can speculate that in fact it already dried up and then got re-soaked. And some water landed on it. Well, then by the sheretz as well. Sheretz nami, maybe it was already dried up. It's been here for a while. Right, and then it got re-moisturized. Sheretz nami, water landed on it. The answer is Reb Shimon holds. If in fact it went through that experience, it first fully dried and then got soaked, it would have come apart. It has that effect. It would have come apart. The fact that it's intact indicates that it's a recent arrival. Okay, let's recap this sugya. Question of timing. We have a sheret, certainly mitame. The question is, how recent did he arrive? Same thing with the sheret, with the kesem on the beged. So, if there was some sort of bedika, or a kibus, i.e. Sweeping, depending on, alongside a bedika, then you know there's no tumah past that point. But anything until that point is tameh, according to Reb Shimon, by these sherets, if it's lach, then you know it's a recent thing. Says the Mishnah, speaking about the stains on a bed, kolak summon all the blood stains, haboin me rekem, Torah, that come from the place called rekem, are considered tar. Why? Says Rashi, because ironically they're goyim, and goyim are not matame. Right? It only applies to a yid, not to a goy. Right? Zelu mazel. High level of kedusha attracts, so to speak, the evil spirits who want to sort of latch on to us and draw from us. Right? Challenge us, give us nisyon. A guy doesn't have that. It's all tar. Rabbi matame. He says, no. These stains, the NIDAH stains from those areas are also tamei. Neshem Gator Mitayin. Don't think they're going. They're really Yidden, Israelim. They're converts, but they're confused. They're irreligious, and that's why they present like you think they're goyim, but they're not really goyim. They're halachically Jewish, and their dam is tummy. Next, haboim mimnei avdi kechavim Torah. Some coming from the goyish communities are certainly Torah. What about Ben Yisrael from amongst the Israelim? Ben Akusim from amongst the Kusim, who were a group of people imported to Israel by Sancherev. Ultimately, they experienced some sort of conversion. There was lions that Hashem sent out to instill fear in them, and they converted. The question was a questionable conversion. The question is whether it was a valid legal conversion and they're really Israelim, or they considered non-Israelim because their gerus wasn't really valid. In any case, Rameir Metame, he considers their dam to be dam tameh. They say it's okay. Why? They're not suspected of leaving around their stains. They wash them, and if you find them, apparently it's not from them, it's from Goyim. Okay, the Gemara will analyze each clause of the Mishnah separately. So in the middle we have Haboim me'od kecham, stains coming from the non-Jewish communities. Goyim, anamatami, they're ksam matar. Now we assume, Kapasak B'Tani Mishnah sets forth a clear-cut halacha without differentiation. Any Goyish area, afilu mitarmid, even from Tarmud. So what does that tell us about the inhabitants of Talmud? That they're Goyim. We can conclude based on this Mishnah, Mekablan Gerim mitarmid. Because they're Goyim, on the flip side, you can accept Gerim from them. Any is that so? V'amar B'Yechanan and Vesavia, another Amora, said, they both concurred, you can't accept any converts from Talmud. Rashi explains, according to this opinion, they weren't Goyim, they were actually members of the Aseres HaShvatim that went to exile, and Goyim was assimilated with them. And this opinion holds a chiddush that a product of this type of union is a mamzer. So technically, it's a yid, and therefore you can't convert. Right? It's already a yid that's a mamzer. So we seem to have a contradiction. Here Rabbi Yechanan says they're suspected of being mamzer, whereas Rabbi Yechanan himself concludes based on our Mishnah that they're bona fide goyim. He says, Zoy say meres, we conclude from the Mishnah that they're goyim. Perhaps he's just observing on the Mishnah's opinion, but he himself would hold differently. Zoyis, when he says Zoyis, well, it's not his personal opinion. What do you mean? But it's based on an anonymous Mishnah, which Rabbi Yechanan always abides by. Rabbi Yechanan follows his Mishnah. So Rabbi Yechanan made a blanket statement. We always adopt the opinion of the Stam Mishnah, including ours. Two versions of Rabbi Yechanan. According to some, he issued that blanket statement. According to others, it was case by case. And in fact, in this case, he disagrees with our Mishnah. He holds like the opinion that they're suspected of being mamzer. In Israel, Mishnah continues, you find the Ksamim from amongst the Jewish communities or amongst the Kusim, Chacham say no problem. What do you mean, Rabban? How do Rabban say it's okay? Either Yisrael Matar, if they are Matar, the Ksam of the Yisrael, then who's left? Deman Matamu. Who's Tameh if not a Yisrael's Ksamim? So Mishnah is meant to be learned as though it's missing some words, and you read it like this. Case by case. Maybe in Yisrael Tam. Sure, Ksamim from amongst the Israelis, surely Tam, there's no question. Maybe not Kusim. Oh, that's questionable. Remember Tameh. Why? He classifies them as Israelim, the Kusim Geri Emes, and they're considered legitimate Geri. The Chachamim Mitaran, they say no problem with their Ksamim because they're not even Israelim. The Kusim Geri, you're already saying they're because of the lions. They're Geri, that's not a legal, halachically valid conversion. You're already saying. Well, the question is, how does that jive with the wording of the Chachamim? They should have said we consider it Torah because they're not Israelim. If that's the reason, why are they concluding with a reference to Nechsher to Al-Kisman? They're not suspected of abandoning their stains and Shulei Nechsher Al-Kisman? Give it a reason by late. They should have simply addressed the point head on. Look, they're not Israel, they're Gerayas, Arayas, they're Ksamanat-Tami, Elochikam. Rather, the mission is meant to be tweaked like this. We have Beben Yisrael, Uben Akusim, Ksaman from Israel and Kusim, Tzmeim, Atam. The Kusim Ger Emesin. Kusim are considered Israel. Next. Hanimtzon Ba'ari Yisrael. Now we switch to a fellow who discovered a kesem out in the open, out in the street. That's not very appropriate for Yisraeli to do that. So there we say Tahir. The stains are okay. It's certainly not from Yisrael, who conducts himself with dignity and would hide the ksamim that are metami. Yisrael are not suspected of abandoning the ksamim. That's no masno. They hide it. They put it away. But stains found in the out areas of the kusim, the streets, or mer metame. He says, look, they're Israel. The ksamim matame. And even if it's out in the open, they don't have that same sensitivity. The nechshel kismeim, they're chasha to leave out their ksamim. And therefore it's tamei. Chacham metar, Chacham say, you know what, even though they're kusim and they're Israelim and they're kesem atame, but we're out in the street, unlikely. Shalei nechshel kismeim, we don't believe that they leave it out in the street. Rather, they put it away, discreetly. And therefore, if you find the kesem in the street, we presume it's, from a guy who's less than careful about these matters, doesn't have any concerns about tumma and this type of dignity, standards of dignity, and therefore you can be consider yourself to be tar. Okay, so conclusion. In general, the kesem dam NIDAH of Yisrael only is tummy. Likewise, a kusi is considered like Yisrael as well. Kesem of a goy is tar. What about the ksam out in the street? You don't attribute it to Yisrael. Can you attribute it to a kusi? Machlekes. Rameir says, yes. Chacham say, just like Yisrael is matzniya, likewise a kusi, and therefore it's not attributed to the kusi, it's presumed to be from a goy, and it's tar. Okay, all the best to you. B'suras Tevis, and Hatzlacha Rabbah.